Axcient announces a lead generation program. BVoiP opens data centers in Canada. Ingram Micro signs a custom IoT agreement with CoreConnect. Lots of hardware news from IFA Berlin and much, much more. It's ChannelPro Weekly, episode 116. C is for Consortium. Hello, everyone, and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly, episode 116. My name is Matt Whitlock, technology editor, online director, and your host of this fine audio program for you. And who do I mean by you? Well, I'm going to introduce you to the man who's going to tell you who you are in case you didn't know. And that man, the smartest man I know, the one who makes jeans and sport coats look like high fashion right out of France, executive editor, Rich Freeman.
And I'm merely in a t-shirt today. People just have to take your word for it. You know who this show is for, Matt? This show is for our readers at ChannelPro, which is to say managed service providers, value-added resellers, system builders, integrators, solution providers. If you are providing technology or technology services to SMBs, you are the target audience for this podcast.
And there you go. And there are people who may have forgotten who they were and needed a little reminder, and that's very helpful. So, Rich, you have helped many people today.
Good. It's, let's keep that going.
That's what we always strive for. You know who else we helped, Rich? We helped a lot of people last week at our ChannelPro SMB Forum in San Jose.
And this is why we skipped a week here on the podcast. We were all tied up in San Jose at the third of our four ChannelPro SMB Forum events for 2019. And like you say, Matt, this one was in San Jose. And it went great. We had a great crowd. Folks stuck around all the way through the day. We had a ton of content, as usual, for people. But apparently it was good content because people stuck around through the end of the day. And a lot of great sponsors in the expo hall. It was just a really good time.
Yeah, I was just looking through some of the pictures on the site, reflecting and looking back and letting the memories rush back in, even though it really wasn't all that long ago. But no, it was a great day. It was a good show. It was a very long day, I have to say. So kudos to everyone who stuck in and stuck with us throughout the entire day, because it was, I believe, our longest show we've ever had.
Yeah, it was. We got started, around 8 a.m., and it was probably 6:30?
6:30, yeah. And then there was that little mocktail mingler thing, and there was a lot of people at that, too.
Yeah. Which
was pretty surprising. So, but there was snacks. So, maybe we shouldn't be all that surprised, given that there were snacks. But no, it was a great show. A long day, but hopefully everybody got a lot out of it. And if you have never been to one of our ChannelProform events, I think this was the 20-something-ish one we've done. Now, they're all different every year. We have a whole new content schedule each and every year, but they kind of follow a similar gist in terms of the format, which is a single track, 2-hour lunch and expo hall before and after lunch with lots of great content put in there. So if you've never gotten a chance to see one, I really, really encourage you to do so. You can learn about our last event of the year. It's events.channelpronetwork.com is where you can find that. Our last in-person event, I should say, is in the Newark, New Jersey area, right?
Yep.
Very near the large city of New York. So if you're in that general vicinity, anywhere in the New York area and New Jersey area, come. We want to have you there. It's you'll get a lot out of it. I mean, I don't think I heard any complaints about the content. You got people in the audience. They got their notepads going and they're taking notes. And you can always tell, like at a show off, like people are kind of tuned out and like disinterested. They're like on their laptops, surfing stuff, doing a little work, checking their phone. Like, oh look, little Susie's on Facebook. What is she doing today? None of that. Like, dude, I'm in the back. I see what everybody's doing, right? They're all just like glued in, zeroed in on the front of the stage, and writing, taking notes. So they're learning a lot.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice, and I got a lot of lovely compliments from people who attended. Thank you very much, folks who were there, for coming and for letting us know that you got some value out of the event. I mean, we do put a lot of work into these shows every year, and it's just nice to know that people feel like it was time well spent. It
was. So so New York, Newark area, make sure you go get registered. So we have a guaranteed place for you. You can show up at the door on the day, but seating gets kind of limited, especially as the house starts getting packed. So guarantee your spot. You get a nice bag with all kinds of goodies and all kinds of good information, like the show guide. We ever talked about the show guide on the podcast, Rich?
Probably not a bunch, no.
So we put together, and I say we as in mostly Rich, but in cahoots with other people and other experts. But our show guide is not just like, here's the agenda for the day and the sponsors that we have. It's like jam packed with all kinds of great information you only get in the show guide. That's all up to date, and it's like a great actionable resource that as soon as you get home and get back to work the next day, you can go through this book, and it's like how to make your business better, how to make more money, right there in the book. You can probably explain it better than I can.
No, I mean, that's pretty good. Essentially what we do, in addition to all the stuff that you would expect to find in a show guide, like you said, what's the agenda, who's speaking, who are the sponsors, et cetera, we have white papers in there. So for every sort of full length, if you will, content session included in one of our SMB Forum events, we have a corresponding white paper inside that show guide that is pretty detailed. And so the idea is you will get a ton of information and insight from the people on stage talking about that topic. Like you said, people are taking notes. You can take your own notes on what's said on stage, but then you also have this takeaway with you that you can bring back to the office that will include a summary of a lot of the points that were presented during the show, and you can hang on to that and refer to that as often as you wish to in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great resource, and the content that you get there in the day too is also very interactive. It's a lot of fun. I love it. Our first panel session, like I love it when the panelists don't agree on something. It's like that, because that's what it's all about. It's hammering out ideas. And like we had a panel that were like, I don't agree with that point that you just made. This is what I think. And then that's when you get the audience kind of involved, and they're saying what they think. And it's just a great interactive dialogue for everybody. So there's nothing like it, Rich, in my opinion.
The one thing we may not have mentioned, we're going to be in Newark, I think near the airport at a DoubleTree, November 6th. I believe that's a Wednesday, November 6th. This
yes.
Date. So you've still got about 2 months to sign up if you're anywhere in the tri-state region. If you're in Pennsylvania, it's within driving range actually of a whole bunch of cities in the Northeast. So yeah, still time to sign up.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't wait. Get your spot in. I don't think we've ever had to close registration because as long as we know in advance, we can accommodate a pretty good amount of space. But don't wait until the last minute. Get your registration in and early. But I know what people are thinking. They're like, Matt, I would love to go to one of these ChannelProform events, but I do not live anywhere near New York City. I will now go into a corner and I will cry because I missed it. But you didn't miss. Well, you missed 2019, but that's okay because we also have not 2, not 4, but 5 ChannelPro SMB Forum events for 2020. So we are adding one because we love more work. But no, we're going to a whole host of cities in 2020. So starting off in March 5th, we're going to Dallas, Texas. So if you're in the Texas area, anywhere around Dallas, what other states are by there? Alabama, I think. And there's a bunch of stuff that's kind of within a long drive from Dallas, but it's drivable. You'll want to check that show out in Dallas. We're also going to Washington, D.C. So if you're on the East Coast, but a little too far north or a little too far south, bam, we're going to D.C., Washington, West, and Dulles on May 6th. New city we've never been to before. So all you North Caroliners, home base of Channel Pro, we love you, and we're coming to town. Well, I mean, Channel Pro is always in town. That's where our office is. But we are putting on a show in Raleigh, North Carolina on July 9th at the Raleigh Marriott Crabtree. Crab trees, Rich. Do you think they actually have crab trees there?
I don't know. What exactly is a crab tree?
A tree that's very disgruntled. I don't know. But we'll find out. That's the first thing I'm going to ask the desk, like, where are the crab trees? It's the first thing I'm going to say. And of course, everybody from North Carolina is like, dude, of course, there's like crab trees everywhere. You don't know what a crab tree is? Come on, get out of here. But no, we're going to Raleigh in July. So check that one out. We're also, September 3rd, we're going back to Boston, the Boston Marriott Newton over there in Newton. So it's real close to Boston, easy drive. on September 3rd. We've been there a bunch of times, so if you've come to that show before, come again. We want to have you back because, like I said, it's all new content every single year. And you're not going to see anything you've seen before. It's all up to date. We're going to be talking about the latest trends in the channel and how to make money and the latest service offerings and businessy stuff, Rich. We talk a lot about businessy stuff.
We absolutely do. You will. I feel very confident in saying you'll go home with information that will help you improve and grow your business.
Indeed, indeed. And if you were not able to make San Jose because it's kind of up in the Bay Area, and it's not a horrible drive or flight from the LA area. We know that California is a very large state, and we know that the Bay people and the LA people don't always like to intermix. You know what I mean? But that's why about every other year we do a Bay Area show, and then we go back to LA. So ChannelPro SMB Forum 2020, Los Angeles, November 5th. It's a beautiful time to be in LA. Over at the Pacific Palms Resort. We've never done this particular venue before, right? We've always kind of been in Long Beach and a couple other areas around there. Yeah,
this is the first time we're in City of Industry, first time we're at this facility. I've actually attended a few D&H events at that hotel. It's a very nice place. And I am told, I'm from out of town, I don't know, but I'm told City of Industry is actually quite accessible for Southern Californians in terms of commutes and so on. So I think it's a good location.
Never a better time to check out the ChannelPro SMB Forum. Registration is open on all of these events already. So, I mean, I know it's weird registering a year in advance, but register a year in advance. Go ahead. Get your spot secured. Events.channelpronetwork.com. You'll see the register button on all of those shows that you go and check out there. And of course, between now and then, we also have a bunch of online summits, like our online events. Rich, you want to tell everyone a little bit about those?
Yeah, well, I mean, coming up really in less than a month now is our very first online event, 100% dedicated to our readers in Canada. We're calling it our Canadian IT Provider Online Summit. And there's actually some content there captured from our live and in-person events, as well as some new and original content featuring Canadian peers of yours. So events.channelpronetwork.com is a place to check that out too. Take a look at it. And then in December, and I'm not looking at the page, so I don't know the exact date on that, but in December, we will be doing our second annual services-focused online summit event, which basically covers the managed everything as a service kind of opportunity that's emerging out there right now. So lots of really great new and original content there. And just so you know, I mean, the format basically is you go ahead and register online. We're going to send you a URL that you can use on the day of the event. You go to that URL in the morning there when you want to attend. You will see a menu of webinars, all of which have been recorded in advance, and you can watch as many of those as you want, in whatever order you want, as many times as you want throughout the day. If you need to break away for a meeting or a lunch or whatever, you can do that and come back in. That content is all accessible to you throughout the day. And then I believe the way we do it still is for an additional fee, you can have on-demand access to that content after that day. But we found it's a very convenient format for people who want a way to consume ChannelPro event content, but can't necessarily either aren't located near one of the cities where we're doing our in-person stuff, or can't travel there or whatever. Here's a way to benefit from all this content that we're creating that doesn't involve all the time and money that you have to invest in travel. You can just do it from your desk at the office.
Pajamas are allowed.
Yeah.
They are. Well, I don't know if they're allowed at your office, but if you're consuming it from home, pajamas are allowed, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. It is, and you know what? The fee is not all that bad to get on-demand access afterwards. And I watched a bunch of the webinars. They're really good. I could see how a lot of people would want to go and refer back to those multiple times. So think about that. But it's free to watch them all on the day, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
It's free to watch them all the day of the
Yeah, absolutely. If you are a registered attendee, I don't believe there's any registration fee. You do have to sign up. And then, you have unlimited access to all that content on the day of the show.
Fantastic. Check all that out on our event site. The URL, again, we'll put it in the show notes page. And if you're watching the video, like on YouTube or something, we'll put the link in the description area. Events.channelpronetwork.com. So we have registration information for all of our past and upcoming events. If you want to see where we've been, we have all that stuff available. If you want to see who was there and what the sponsors were, but if you want to see what's coming up for the live and online events, that's where all that information is. Events.channelpronetwork.com is where you register. It's where all the magic happens, Rich. That's where all right. We've been on events for a while, but it's important, and you know, these are great shows. Take advantage of it. It's a lot of great stuff for you guys to learn. But we're going to switch gears because I know we have not too hard of a stop for time, but we don't want to like drone on and on and on and on and on forever, which everyone knows I'm really, really good at. Rich is nodding his head over there. He's like, yep, he sure is.
Well, yeah, regular listeners, it's not just you, it's the two of us, and regular listeners know.
So a lot of news since we weren't recording last week. So let's start off with our first story. Axcient has this is what everybody loves, lead generation programs.
They do
Business.
Just announced that this week. Kind of an interesting story. So Axcient is in the process, and has been for a long time now, of really kind of dialing in on partner success and partner satisfaction. There was a period in time in this company's evolution when they kind of stepped away from the managed services channel. They're sort of trying to compensate for that now, and they're really, really making some serious efforts to position themselves as, you know, the MSP's best friend, essentially. So they have this whole partner success team. They are completely rebuilding a lot of core processes in terms of things like billing and marketing in a bid to make everything a lot easier for MSPs, fewer SKUs, fewer pricing schemes, easier to connect with people. So in connection with that, just a few weeks ago recently, they launched a new marketing portal, which offers significantly expanded functionality and benefits to Axcient partners. And at the time, they said one of the things that they were going to be looking to do as well is start farming out leads to their partners. Now, the backstory on this is kind of interesting because this was not something that they had been planning for a long time, but they have been doing a lot of search engine optimization in an effort to, you know, get their name and their products in front of MSPs to make their stuff visible to the managed services channel out there. In the process, they've been getting their name and their brand and their products out in front of end users as well. And every now and again, and I mean more than every now and again, they were getting a relatively steady stream of calls and electronic inquiries from end users, from businesses about their product. They don't sell direct, so they would take those leads that were coming to them that they weren't even really looking for, and they would farm them out to, you know, appropriately located partners. And, you know, needless to say, after a while, the thought came, boy, if we're getting this many leads without even looking for them, what would happen if we went out and actually tried to get leads? How many could we get? And so that's where this lead generation program comes from. They're going to be making an investment in various kinds of, you know, to customer, end user focused marketing activities specifically designed to get them interested in learning more about Axcient products. And all of those leads are going to go out to Axcient partners. And the tie-in with the marketing portal is in terms of how they figure out which partner gets which lead. They have this sort of point system that is either in place now or will be in place soon. And it's kind of tracking what you do in the portal, how much, how often you use the portal, and you get points for various kinds of activities. The more points you have, the likelier you are to be the recipient of these leads as they come in. But, you know, bottom line is, if there's anything that an MSP or another channel pro likes to get from their vendors, it's sales leads, and they're going to take a stab at doing that at Axcient. I will say quickly, and I note this in my article about this, when I heard about this program, it reminded me of something that Dado, another company in the same market as Axcient, attempted a few years back. I think it started anyway in 2016. I don't know when they discontinued it, but they decided we're going to spend some big money. I want to say it was like $1 million, and we're going to go out and we're going to generate leads for Dado products, and we're going to give all of them to our MSP partners. And I'll call it a year or so after they started that, I was at the DadoCon event in 2017 and asked their chief marketing officer, how did it go? And he said it didn't. Basically, it just really didn't work for us. We weren't getting good leads, as many leads as we thought we were going to get for the money that we spent, and so we've kind of stopped doing it. So it'll be interesting to see if Axcient, has more success, if they're using different techniques. I'll be curious to know what kind of volume of leads they get and how good those leads are for their partners.
Yeah, I know we've talked about a couple other companies like Dado who've gone down this route, and the premise is great. And if they're able to generate good leads and they have a fair system of doling them out, that even if it's points based, I mean, if they're rewarding partners who are more engaged with them, hey, you want those leads, go get more engaged with Axcient, right? It's that simple, and it's good for partners because obviously these leads could lead to other kinds of business as well, not just necessarily Axcient sales. But this is a slippery slope, though, that I always see with these, and I always urge a little bit of caution because like they're saying, oh, look, we're getting leads, and we don't even know what to do with leads. Like we don't want the leads. Well, I tell you what, we'll give them to our partners. Wow, let's see how many more leads we can get. And the line of thinking can start to shift a little bit and say, hey, we're getting all these damn sales leads. We're just handing them over to partners. Why don't we just sell the damn things ourselves? So I could see how that could be a slippery slope. So as long as they stay partner focused and they're not, trying to eventually take a more direct model to see, because if they get so much business, why not do it directly? Do you see that as a slippery slope or no?
I'm not terribly concerned about. I mean, the reason that I don't worry about that a lot is the same reason that vendors like Axcient and others had sales channels in the first place, which is just if they were to ever decide to go direct, they would have to kind of build up this internal sales force capable of handling all those leads, and it's much more efficient and scalable and cost effective for them to do that through partners. Now, I mean, that said, like I kind of hinted at before, there is some history in the case of Axcient with them doing some stuff direct, but I think they've kind of made a strategic commitment here that the way to really build the business rapidly, scale it up, is through the channel. And so I'm not too worried about them, getting tempted at some point by the prospect of selling some of this stuff themselves.
I hope not. And I hope this program works out. I mean, anytime you can work with a vendor who's basically handing you business, that's definitely a vendor you want to be involved with. So get involved with Axcient, see if you can get some well-qualified leads, and let us know how it goes.
And that's a key thing. You said the magic word there, qualified. I probably should have said that before, is they're not just going to grab any lead that comes in and toss it out to a partner. There is some qualifying that they do before they ship that out to somebody.
Well, that's even better.
Yes.
Even better. So check all that out. And partners, if you get some leads from Axcient, let us know if you sell some, and let us know how that program is working out for you. So we were talking earlier about Canadian summits, online summits. Well, they have data centers in Canada too, and BVoiP just opened one.
They opened two,
what?
As a matter of fact.
Why do they need 2 data centers in Canada?
It's a big country.
It is. Are these powered by maple syrup?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I know. A tired, old, cliched joke. What else do you expect from me, right? Okay.
Well, and it's funny because in the marketing that we pulled together for that Canadian IT provider online summit we were talking about before, it's hard. Yeah, I never know when I'm crossing the line. I as a south of the border guy, I don't want to offend our Canadian readers. It's like if I say Great White North, do people roll their eyes in Canada? I don't know, but. Yeah, thing that and hockey. They I don't know if they'll be into.
But you know what though, I can talk about hockey because I love hockey.
Yes, that's true.
As you well know, and yes. I cannot wait until October 12th when my hockey season starts again because I am just going crazy. So anyway, sorry, continue.
Well, so this story that we're talking about here concerns BVoiP, which is one of the many companies out there competing for your business in the voice over IP market these days. They have been doing business in Canada pretty much since they opened their doors, but they've never really had a point of presence specifically inside Canada. They do now, 2 of them in Vancouver and Toronto, and the importance of that for their partners is there are certain industries in Canada that are legally required to keep data inside the country's borders. The public sector, government is a good example, and they've got single-payer healthcare in Canada, so that public sector encompasses the entire medical industry as well. But there are others as well, apparently, that are affected by these laws. And essentially that meant that there were a lot of customers in Canada who were sort of out of bounds for BVoiP partners. That is no longer the case. You now have the option of hosting any Canadian customer's data inside Canada in these new data centers. It's worth saying they have BVoiP has now data centers in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand, in the UK, and they are completely flexible, mix and match with which of those that you use and how you pay for the services. So if you are a U.S. partner who, for some reason, if you're concerned about the USA Patriot Act and the federal government, looking at a customer's data, or if you have a customer who's concerned about that and they would prefer to have their data in the Canadian data center, you can do that, and you can pay for that service in U.S. dollars or Canadian dollars if you wish. If you are in Australia and you would prefer to use the U.S. data center, you can do that and pay for it in Australian currency or United States dollars. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you take advantage of this. And then the other thing, I keep highlighting the privacy concerns and the legal concerns, but obviously the other benefit here for Canadian partners of BVoiP and their customers is just you're closer to the market. So they're expecting less latency, better performance of their system, because they're going to be able to connect directly from those Canadian data centers to the Canadian last mile providers, if you will, the cable companies and so on that are streaming their service out to phones. So yeah, BVoiP has arrived in a bigger way than before in Canada.
Yeah, that's great. And so when you're setting a customer up, that's when you kind of decide where. Do you have to decide, or do you only have to decide if you want to be specific? Otherwise, do you just say, I'm signing up a new customer and the data goes wherever? Or
I don't know. I don't know how they do that, if they give you the option of specifying or if you're required to specify.
Okay. So something I'm sure you'll figure out. But that's great that they're giving you the choice and the flexibility to do that. And it's great that you can now target Canadian customers more effectively and work with those industries there. All good news for BVoiP. BVoiP partners. I was going to say VVoIP, but that wouldn't have been correct. It is BVoiP. And I'm also losing my voice. So as soon as you start talking, I'm going to put myself on mute and try to clear my throat.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I'm going to introduce this and say Ingram Micro signs a custom IoT, I'm going to die, device manufacturing pact with Core Connect. Take it away, Rich.
Okay. Yeah, this was announced during our show last week as well, and it's kind of interesting. So all the big distributors now, we know, are getting more and more serious about the Internet of Things. And, Synex has been serious about it for a while. Tech Data has been getting more and more serious about it for the last couple of years. Of that trio, Ingram Micro has been maybe the last to really start ramping up in that IoT arena, but they've been doing it in a really big way for about the last 9-10 months, and it's been actually kind of impressive how quickly they've pulled together a fairly robust and mature program. And they've just added an offering, a service to it that I have not seen any of the other distributors offer. Now, that doesn't mean it isn't available, and I could just be I'm unaware of it, but this is kind of interesting. So, all the distributors will sit down with you, and really some of the main value that they bring to their customers in IoT is their ability to aggregate a complete IoT solution. So IoT solutions require a whole bunch of different products, software products, hardware products, gateways, applications, cloud solutions, etc. It can be very difficult for a channel pro in particular to navigate all that, figure out who's out there, who's going to be the best fit for this particular solution or a project that I'm working on. And so all the distributors can help you with that, help you kind of figure out the right mix of vendors that you need. Ingram Micro now can actually go a step beyond that. And so if you're working on a project for a particular customer, or if you're developing a product that you want to bring to market and sell to a bunch of different customers, and there's a particular kind of sensor, say, that you need that you can't find on the market, no existing hardware manufacturer makes exactly the kind of sensor that you need to make this product of yours real. Ingram Micro can now set you up with this company called CoreConnect. That special. This is pretty much what they do is sort of mass customization of sensors and other IoT devices. And so with assistance from Ingram Micro, you can actually get a customized piece of hardware for your particular solution developed. And CoreConnect says that, due to various tools that they use and processes that they've perfected, they're very quick and reasonably affordable in terms of how they do this. Now, that said, this is probably a service that's going to be more appealing to larger partners. If you need a few dozen sensors, this may not be something that you're going to wind up taking advantage of. It's available to anybody. I think the economics, start to get more and more appealing as the volumes go up. But it is interesting now that, in addition to what they could do before in terms of highlighting for you some hardware options from OEMs that you might want to consider for your solution, they can actually help you make a device that you need on your own.
Interesting. I'm trying to think of a kind of sensor that doesn't already exist. And I can't think of one. But then again, if you're running into a particular business, it may not necessarily be that the evaporation sensors don't exist or whatever, but that they don't have it doesn't fit in the right spot, or it seems like it's not necessarily to invent a new kind of sensor. It's just customizing something to work in a particular environment.
That would be my guess. I mean, I don't know what a typical CoreConnect project looks like either, but I would guess it's something like, this particular kind of sensor I need comes from a number of OEMs, but I need one that can handle a 300-degree, temperature tolerance, or can work 200 feet underwater. I mean, there's something particular about, like you said, the dimensions, the size, where it's going to be used, and there's just nothing out there that quite fits the bill.
That's cool. I wonder what else they build besides sensors. We should look into that.
Yeah. It's an interesting guy. You should check out their website. It's an interesting company. No one else is doing this right now. But I would assume that you even if you weren't going through Ingram, you could go to this CoreConnect company and get something built, right? That's correct. Yeah, they have all sorts of direct customers. They were a little bit. I couldn't quite get specifics out of them or Ingram in terms of the financial advantages of working with CoreConnect through Ingram, but by implication, there were some advantages there. So, but I would like to know a little bit more about that, about why you don't go straight to CoreConnect, other than the fact that if you're working with Ingram, they're kind of bundling that into a larger set of technologies that they're helping you assemble.
I think that's probably more the advantage than anything else, is that Ingram already knows what you're bundling and how it all fits together, and can probably communicate that better with CoreConnect than the partner could.
And communicate's probably key. You're probably exactly right. Is the target audience for this kind of solution is somebody who's maybe relatively new to IoT. They have IoT specialists at Ingram, and they can play that sort of translator role, for you with the hardware maker.
Yeah, that's cool though. It's a good deal. If this puts Ingram, I think, it's not like a 20 steps ahead of anybody else in this game, but as a distributor, they are the only ones doing this as of this particular moment. So that does give them a leg up if you're looking for a distributor or looking to work with a distributor for IoT projects. And if you're not looking at working on IoT projects, you're insane. Start now.
Yeah, get started, folks. If you're not, really, because you'll be kicking yourself before too long if you weren't taking advantage of this time to be getting started on that. I want to be cautious about one thing. I cannot tell you categorically Ingram is the only distributor doing this kind of thing. I'm not aware of a service like this from the others, but it could be out there, and they've just not highlighted it for me.
Well, we will give props to the one that highlights it.
Yeah, and
says this is. I mean, they wouldn't be talking about this if it wasn't something that it was kind of unique to them, I think.
Yeah,
but they may have other distributors. Go ahead. Other distributors may have relationships with other companies that they put you in touch with, but they may not necessarily facilitate everything through themselves.
And they do not have a relationship with CoreConnect. That I can say categorically is Ingram is the only distributor working with that particular company, CoreConnect.
Very cool. Well, neat. Well, we're going to put this in our show notes. So if you want to learn more about this and kind of having access to custom IoT devices using Ingram Micro, check that out. It is pretty cool stuff. Carbonite and Webroot are back in the news again. We've seen them a lot. But they have a new executive team. They don't normally write about this kind of stuff, so this must be something interesting and unique. But it's apparently very Webroot-heavy. Now, does that mean that they picked like the heaviest people from the Webroot staff? So like this executive team weighs more in total on the scale.
Yeah, I'll have to get the roster or the yearbook with the specs, the stats on their executives to find out about that. But it astutely observed, Matt. We do not typically write about executive appointments and C-level shakeups at vendor, and it's not because it's irrelevant information. A lot of it is just lack of bandwidth, and we would rather dedicate our attention to stuff that's going to have a more tangible kind of dollars and cents impact on our readers. And so we'll summarize this kind of stuff in our end of the week roundup usually. But despite the fact that I was in San Jose and on and off stage, I wanted to sit down and write quickly about this because I thought it was very interesting. Now, early this year, as we know, Carbonite purchased Webroot for $618.5 million. And the thinking behind that was very reasonable. Carbonite obviously is a BDR vendor. But they kind of wanted to expand beyond backup and disaster recovery into the field of data protection. And data protection these days very much includes security. And so this idea that, combining security and BDR in one product portfolio, calling it all data protection, making it easier for MSPs and their customers to procure all that from one source. This is a big strategic push for Carbonite right now. And it's worth noting, Acronis, another company, is doing exactly the same thing. And in about a month or so, we'll be talking about that because I'll be attending an Acronis event where they're going to be making a bunch of announcements along those lines. But Carbonite buys Webroot in February. And then here we are in the beginning of September, and they announced some pretty important C-level executive appointments at the company. And who is it they put in these senior positions? Well, their new chief operating officer at Carbonite is John Post. He was the CFO at Webroot, and then for a while was the general manager in charge of what had become Carbonite's Webroot business unit. The chief product officer now for Carbonite is Chad Batcher. He was the senior vice president in charge of products for Webroot. The chief technology officer at Carbonite is Hal Lonis, who I've interviewed a few times. He was the CTO for Webroot before. And I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but a few weeks before these announcements were made, Charlie Tomeo, who was the VP of channel sales at Webroot, became the VP of channel sales for Carbonite. Are you seeing a theme here in terms of these senior positions at Carbonite, the company that bought Webroot, now being filled with people who work for Webroot? And I think there's an explanation for this, basically, that I highlight in this article that we're looking at here right now, which is a big part of what Carbonite was doing when they bought Webroot was trying to create this or pursue this data protection strategy. But the other thing was wanting to get into managed services and build an MSP channel. Carbonite's channel historically has been very VAR heavy, VAR oriented. Webroot has been way more oriented in terms of MSPs, and they've been very good, in fact, at building an MSP partner channel. And so a big part of what Carbonite got when they bought Webroot was these MSP relationships and a bunch of people who really understand the MSP space and what managed service providers need. I think it tells you something about where the market is, where the industry is right now, that Carbonite is so serious about MSPs and managed services that they're putting the people who know most about that into some of their senior-most roles at the company. I think it's another sign, if we needed one, as private equity money floods into the MSP space, that this market is as big as it is and as mature as it is now. It's only going to get enormously bigger in the next few years ahead. And well-run companies, let's say like Carbonite, that are looking down the road know it, and they know that they need to be smart about managed services if they're going to stay competitive.
I like your assessment. I think you're probably right. At first, I was thinking that the reason they were getting rid of all of those executives from Carbonite is because they didn't do very well at the last company softball game. Too many strikeouts. But your answer makes far more sense than mine does. Although that could have been part of it, though. You gotta have. Know. I think. What was his name? Hal Lonis. He looks like he's a better catcher than the other one. And Scott Semmel. He's a good first baseman.
Just like the looks of him, huh?
just by the looks, you can tell. First base. No. I 100% agree. I think Carbonite was stuck in a very end user and integrator role and had no idea how to get out of it. And Webroot seems to be the perfect avenue to shift into a managed sales model and get better connected with the MSP channel. So I think you're 100% dead on.
And I mean, it's interesting that, so there's a chief product officer and a chief technology officer in that announcement. So it's not just in terms of, partner programs and working with partners. It's building products that are MSP friendly in terms of multi-tenancy and the other things that MSPs look for. That, it's interesting because the Webroot acquisition happened, I want to say it was in February. And I've had an opportunity to interview some of the executives at Webroot in particular since then, a few times actually. And every time I do, I will sort of ask, so when are we going to start seeing some tangible impact from this acquisition in terms of, product integrations or new products, or, when does 1 + 1 start equaling 3? And the answer has always been, and up to and including as recently as July, I interviewed Charlie Tomeo at the Microsoft Partner Conference in July. And the answer has always been, stay tuned, coming soon. Not quite there yet. But the expectation that has been set for me is that as we get into very late October, early November at the ConnectWise IT Nation event, they're going to have some things to announce. And they haven't even really given me hints about that, but I get the feeling it's going to be more than just renaming a product or, introducing an API connection between. It feels like there's maybe something kind of interesting brewing over there. So I'm looking forward to finding out what that is.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes open. That sounds neat. On a side note, I always get interested in some of these big top level executive positions. Like there was a guy who was or lady, if you will, who was the CFO at a company, and then they brought him or her over to another company, and now they're the chief operating officer. And I think like those two jobs are not really the same, right? One's very accounting heavy. The other is operations. Is that just like a natural, seamless role, like a job switch for that type of job? CFO to COO?
I think most finance people, most operations people, most finance people would say that finance is part of operations, along with HR and sales and IT. So it's not a totally and if your background is in finance and that's why you're a CFO, it doesn't necessarily mean you lack the managerial know-how to step into the COO role. So I think those are pretty close. And it's interesting. I mean, this is a way different example, but I have a friend who lives in Portland, Oregon, and for a bunch of years worked for this environmental nonprofit down there, like a 75-person organization, so a much smaller kind of company. And he was originally the CFO and then became the COO, and the CFO reported to him. So I think these two jobs are kind of relatively closely related. So okay, that makes sense. I was curious because I always see a lot of shuffling of those high positions, and I always like, they're kind of the same. Or it's like, does the CFO always aspire to be the COO, or and then is the COO and CEO, are those naturally interchangeable positions? What about CFO to CEO? What about CTO? What about the janitor? Could you go from janitor to CTO if you're a technical janitor? You would have to be a very technical janitor, very impressive janitor. It could happen.
It could happen. That would be a rags to riches, literally rags to riches story. Funny. All right. Well, let's get off of Carbonite Weber. But yeah, I agree with you. I think we're going to see some big stuff from them, and see if we can squeeze out what exactly it's going to be and when, because we're all just waiting with bated breath.
Exactly. All year long, we're waiting for this. So it's I think it's coming soon.
Yeah, this must be the word of 2019, because this is like the third time I've seen you use it. Consortium. Consortium
Wow.
is the word of the day. We should do this like an episode. It was like Sesame Street. Be like, the word of the day is consortium. Ah, we all scream. Was that Sesame Street, or was that Pee-wee's Playhouse? It was one of the two. I think it was Pee-wee's Playhouse that did the word of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had something like that on Sesame Street, didn't they?
I know they had like the number of the day.
Letter A, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, it was brought to you by, it was letters and numbers, not words. But so Channel Pro is not brought to you by the letter C for consortium. But it is our word of the day, so now Rich has to jump around and scream like a crazy person. Okay. All right. ConnectWise launches a security information sharing consortium. Tell us about it.
So interesting development here. So as context for this, a few things. So we know that hackers and cyber thieves are going after companies that make RMM software and PSA software because they've kind of figured out.
You got to just put a period right there, Rich. Hackers and people are going after businesses, period.
Well, yeah, but they're specifically of late. Going after companies like ConnectWise and Dado and Kaseya and so on that make RMM and PSA software, because if you break into an RMM solution, say, that's like the keys to the entire MSP's kingdom. There are all these end users out there who you can infiltrate by taking advantage of some of the data that you'll find in that system. And so the RMM PSA manufacturers are very much under attack. The situation is bad enough that the Department of Homeland Security issued a warning specifically about this, and not so much in terms of the managed services software makers, but in terms of hackers going after MSPs. Late last year, there was a warning from the federal government about that if you're an MSP, be careful because they're looking for you right now. And so I've been writing a fair amount just in the last, say, 6 months or so about efforts that companies like ConnectWise have been doing to shore up the security of their systems. And we've all heard about and read about and reported on various successful attacks and breaches of these platforms that have been perpetrated out there. And so up until now, all of these companies, the ConnectWises and Dados and SolarWinds of the world, have been working very hard on securing their software, but they've been doing it all individually on their own. And what ConnectWise is trying to do is actually get all these different companies to sort of collaborate a little bit on this and share information and hopefully enable each other to be more effective at locking out the bad guys as a result. And so what ConnectWise did is set up it's officially called an Information Sharing and Analysis Organization, an ISAO, and leave it to the federal government to come up with a name like that and an acronym. This is actually a concept that was invented I believe, during the Obama administration, and the federal government ever since then has been encouraging businesses to form these ISAOs and get together, pool their knowledge in all sorts of different industries, not just the technology industry. Get together, pool your expertise, do a better job collectively at security than maybe you can do individually. And the reason why it's important for the federal government to be involved in that is from afar, it might look like collusion or some sort of antitrust problem for ConnectWise and Dado and Kaseya and SolarWinds and these other companies to be getting together in a room and exchanging information. And the government wants these companies to know that not only are we not going to prosecute you for some sort of antitrust problem, we're actually encouraging you to do this.
Assuming it stays focused on security.
Yes, yeah, very important. Extra point there, but yeah, as long as it's about keeping everybody's software safe, then yes, you guys can get together in a room somewhere and exchange information like that. And so ConnectWise has taken the step to be the company in this market, in the RMM PSA world, to create that kind of an organization. And they're providing their peers, these other companies, access to their threat intelligence platform as part of that. It'll be interesting to see if any of these other companies have interest in taking advantage of that particular asset, or more broadly, whether or not they have any interest in just being a part of this consortium, to use the magic word. I don't know at this. This was only announced 2 weeks ago, and I really don't know at this point how many of these other companies have signed on to be a part of this and how actively engaged they are or are planning to be. This could wind up being a really interesting announcement that doesn't, amount to very much, but I think it's a healthy thing actually for these companies, given the degree of danger that they're dealing with right now, to be at least talking about the possibility of collaborating on security as opposed to just working in their own separate little spheres.
Yeah, I don't know offhand how many vendors are just going to jump at this and say, "Oh, wow, great job, ConnectWise. We would be happy to do this." I think this is going to be a more bottom-up thing. I think this is going to come from, Dado's customers and other customers of other RMM platforms to be like, "Hey, I use your RMM. You should be a part of this consortium. Security is important. If your RMM is busted, is broken into, that's like that is the end of an MSP's business right there. If your RMM fails, because that is an infection in every client you have, you will lose all your customers like that. So I think but I don't see these companies like wanting to get into a room with their competitors and talking about stuff. But I think if enough of their customers demand it and start screaming about security, I think these other companies would find it in their interest to start collaborating on security.
Well, that would certainly be a home run for ConnectWise. I mean, if there were actually MSPs talking to these other manufacturers and saying, "Hey, you need to be a part of this ISAO," that would be great stuff from their perspective, I'm sure. So, we'll see what kind of awareness of this organization there is among MSPs out there. But is there a cost to these other companies to be involved in this? I mean, so you said you'd say it's a big win for ConnectWise. Wouldn't greater security be a big win for everybody? Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to invest the time and effort into creating something like this, you want it to have an impact. And so if it makes enough waves, essentially, that MSPs are actually pushing their vendors to be involved, that to me would be at the high end of the success spectrum, basically, from ConnectWise's standpoint. It's like not only are the vendors aware of this and interested at least in this, but the MSPs broadly are and want the companies they do business with to be a part of it.
So why ConnectWise? Why not one of the other RMM makers doing this? Should that be viewed as a sign of weakness by ConnectWise? Like they don't believe that their security is as good, so they put this organization out there because they want all their competitors to join it, so that way they can harden their own product better because they're vulnerable.
That's not how I would. In fact, I would be concerned about anyone defining membership in an ISAO as a sign of weakness, right? So I can't really answer the core question there, which is why ConnectWise? Why not somebody else? I don't know. Maybe they didn't think of it or what have you. But I don't think ConnectWise, being the company that created this organization, indicates that they can't handle security on their own, and so they need help from other people. I think the logic of an ISAO appeals to them. They get that logic and feel like they and their customers, their partners, could all benefit from that kind of a group.
They could. Plus, when you get all your competitors in one group, it's a lot easier to schedule and form like intercompany softball leagues. Right. Because we know that's a big deal for how they pick executives now. So yeah. So if that happens, ConnectWise, I'm just spend a little time in the batting cage because you don't want to lose your job over this. Richie, I'm laughing my butt off. Oh, fun times. Okay, well, pretty cool. Let's hope it goes somewhere. But like as you said, if nobody joins it, it's not really going to do anything. So
right.
Hopefully it works. Better security is good for everybody. So vendors, my advice is that if you have even competitors that want to talk about security and share information about security-related information to make everybody's products more secure, that seems like a good win for everybody. So, but you could also be a competitor and say, well, you know what? I can handle hardening my own product, and I want your product to not be hard, so that way you lose all your customers and I get all of your customers after that. So that's a perfectly also reasonable argument against the whole ISAO sharing thing.
We shall see. We shall see which argument kind of wins out. I'm at an event next week, the IT Glue partner conference. IT Glue is part of Kaseya, and if I get an opportunity to ask somebody from the appropriate part of the Kaseya world over there, or have you joined? Do you plan to join? I will.
I am curious to hear the answer. The answer will probably be no comment. But you never know. You're good at getting people to comment, even when they don't want to. Who else is also good at doing things? It's not the best segue in the world. They might have a good company softball team, though. I don't know. Liongard. It sounds like they have a pretty cool company softball team. They'd be the Liongard Lions, right?
Or the Liongard Roars. Their product is called Roar.
The Roar. They could be the Roars. Roars. Very cool. Yeah, so they added, change management to automated documentation. Tell me about that.
Now, the truth of the matter is there was some change management functionality in the product before, but they've enhanced it in some pretty significant ways. So Liongard, for folks who don't know the company very well, they do automated documentation, basically. They had this product, Roar, will go out into all of your customer, if you're an MSP, they'll go out into all of the Office 365 environments that you support. Salesforce environments, I'm kind of blanking. They have this big long list of technologies that your customers are probably using in some combination. And instead of you having to go out and document how many seats do we have in place, how's it configured, all that kind of information, their tool goes out and it collects all that information and it keeps it updated. So, you're charging for some of this stuff by the user, for example. Billing time comes around at the end of the month. You don't have to figure out how many seats of this or that product you've got out there. The Liongard tool is doing that for you. Now, they've had what they call timeline functionality in this product pretty much from the beginning, and it allows you to kind of go back to any particular point in time in the past and see how things were configured, what the device counts, et cetera, looked like 4 months ago versus last week, and make that comparison. If you know something has changed, you could kind of look at the records and see or figure out what has changed. But what they've done now recently is add some functionality that both brings change to your attention more prominently and makes figuring out what the change was a lot easier. So in terms of the attention piece of that, you now have the ability to have a ticket automatically generated in your PSA system when something's significant. And down the road, they're going to expand this capability so that you can actually if you want to, you can be notified of any kind of change, even trivial ones. But for right now, they're focusing on significant ones involving DNS settings or something like that. If something changes, a ticket automatically pops up in your PSA, and that tells you, hey, something's changed. You need to check this out and see what it was. And then when you do that, what you're going to have now is all that timeline data is still there, but they've added something to that works a whole lot like revision marks in Word, and you'll actually be able to see in either I think it's red text if something got deleted and green text if something got added. But your eyes will be drawn immediately to whatever it is that's new in the current settings for that technology for that customer, which it just makes figuring out what changed a whole lot easier. For a technician, a whole lot faster. So that's the new functionality from Liongard. The interesting thing about these guys is they introduce stuff like this on a fairly regular basis. It's a very young company, and so they don't either have the time or take the time, I think, to alert the media, if you will, to a lot of this stuff. And I kind of stumbled across this particular enhancement in an email exchange with somebody over there, but they've got stuff like this coming along all the time over there, and I think that the only people who really know about it are the people who are already using the Liongard product.
Yeah, that's neat. Now, is this is Liongard like a direct competitor to like IT Glue, or is this kind of a different thing?
I would say it's kind of a co-opetition kind of thing. The interesting thing there is the very first time that I interviewed the two founders of the company was at last year's IT Glue conference. This conference I'm going to next year is the second annual IT Glue event. And I went to the first annual one last year, and Liongard was a sponsor and an exhibitor, and that was where I had my first chance to learn about the product. So, I mean, certainly the IT Glue guys aren't like locking them out because they're a direct competitor. I think there is a complementary angle to these two products in terms of some of the automation that Liongard can bring to the table for an IT Glue user. But there is some similarity in what they do as well.
Because I was thinking that, like, man, every MSP would love something like this, something that can, assuming it works properly, but something that can automatically document and keep things up to date and notify you of changes. That's like hours of work for a lot of MSPs.
It really is. And I mean, the two guys who founded the company, Joe Alapat and Vincent Tran, were MSPs themselves. And so they experienced that pain firsthand of dealing with that. And, how many times have we heard this story? They decided to go out and build a tool that would solve this problem that they had, and they have productized it and now are offering it to MSPs in aggregate. It was an interesting thing. So little side note, I mentioned that I met those guys at the last year's IT Glue show, and it just so happened that we booked a time slot that was right before the lunch break one day at that show. And the lunch break is when the expo hall is open. That's when the attendees kind of get their chance to meet with the vendors there, sort of like at our shows. And so I just happened to be sitting in the Liongard booth talking to the Liongard founders when the lunch break began. And I should say a little bit earlier in the day, the various sponsors at this event had each been given a very, very short little time slot to go on stage and kind of introduce themselves to the audience there and just make this very quick little elevator pitch about what we do and why you should come check us out. So the lunch break begins, and while I'm sitting there in the booth, I mean, I'm telling you, 2-3 dozen people, all of a sudden it's a mob scene. And this is a brand new company, none of these people had probably heard of earlier that day. And it goes to kind of what you're talking about there, that I think as soon as people heard even this brief elevator pitch, wait a minute, it automatically goes out and creates collects all this information. I need to learn more about this. And I could actually see the appeal of that product pitch with my own two eyes, because I was sitting there in the booth when it happened.
Yeah, it's amazing to think when you look at all of these automation tools available to MSPs now, you can be a relatively small MSP and have so much stuff automatically done for you with a lot of these new tools. So it's pretty cool to see that.
And that really is the key to profitability and to growth for an MSP. That the more you can get done from an operational point of view with fewer people, the higher your ratio of customers to techs, the better you're going to do. And there are all sorts of different ways to approaches to how you can help MSPs improve that. And the RMM makers, for example, are continually working on interface refinements that are designed to help people get to the information they need that much faster and more easily. But yeah, automated discovery tools like Liongard, that's another way to help a company get support more customers with its existing team of techs.
I love it. Yeah, we'll put a link to that story. I'm sure the ears of many listeners and viewers have kind of perked up because they probably haven't heard Liongard either. Like, automation, you say? Automatically do these things for me? Like, they're going to want to learn more. We'll drop a link to the story, and then from there you can go and you can learn a lot more about Liongard and what they can do. So that's pretty cool stuff. Well, that's pretty much it for the news of that kind of stuff. But there was another big show that happened last week, right?
Yeah, I actually I felt bad for you, Matt. You were very busy. Matt wears many hats for us at Channel Pro. It's actually very impressive how many hats of different designs and shapes. And one of the things he does at our live events is manage all of the sound and the audio and recording all of that. And needless to say, he's at the board, beginning of the day to the end of the day. It's a sort of active, hands-on kind of job all day. And so as a result, you, Matt, you got no time whatsoever at the show to pay attention to all of the news, the giant flood of hardware news coming out of the IFA show in Berlin last week. And what do you love more than hardware news? There was a ton of it last week, and you really didn't get a chance to dive in and see what's new.
I know, and IFA is a fun one to follow because there's all kinds of cool stuff that always comes out of IFA. But what you said about the live events is true. One of the hats that I wear is setting up everything to kind of produce the show and the sound, and I'm running the slide decks and all that kind of stuff. But I also put on a session throughout the day, in the middle of the day, that teaches about trends in technology, which is kind of a fun way. So right now we're doing it in the format of a game show. We call it Tech Trends Feud. So, and it's pretty authentic, as Rich would say. We got the board and the X sounds and the face-offs and all that stuff. It's pretty fun.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah. And it's the first thing we do after lunch, and it gets everybody, you know how it is after lunch, basically, and you're in that food coma, and people have just spent 2 hours talking to vendors in our expo hall. And so the energy level is a little bit lower than it was before lunch. And Matt does a great job, basically, of getting everybody revved up game show style.
Yeah, back into things, getting everybody hyped up again. Pretty fun. This is a fun show. This show was interesting because like half the room was like really, really into it. The other half, let's say the losing half, was not quite as into it, but it was still a lot of fun and a good time. So yes, one of the many hats. But no, I love the IFA show. All kinds of cool stuff. I know we got a couple things here to look at and talk about, and I haven't even still had a chance to go through most of the announcements from IFA and see what else is out there. But thankfully, Mr. Rich has been kind of poking through the news and showed me a few of these and said, hey, we would probably want to talk about these. And you are absolutely correct. So one of the ones, we're not going to spend a lot of time on them, but a couple of cool things that we saw is Lenovo has expanded the ThinkBook lineup. They've added a couple more models to that. And I was really excited to see that the Lenovo is embracing the SMB channel in a very, very specific way with this new initiative to have like a brand new line of notebooks specifically targeted to younger workers, Gen Z, they specifically call it Gen Z and Millennial, in SMBs. So I mean, the ThinkPad line is great, it's iconic, but it's also not hip. Would you say that that's probably a fair assessment?
Yeah. I would say any product line that is associated heavily with the word workhorse is probably not hip.
Definitely not hip. Generally black. I mean, there's a lot of nice ThinkPads, and there's a lot that are still kind of SMB focused. But what they're trying to do with ThinkBook, I think, is important because they needed something that kind of gives you the styling and the look and some of the features that you find more on consumer-grade devices, but also with a little bit better durability and some of the more business type of features that you kind of need to find something that Gen Z and millennials will be happy with. Otherwise, you're just in another bring your own kind of solution, or they're unhappy, or they're, from what I understand, I don't know many of people in this generation, but they're like, if you don't give them a laptop or tools that they're happy using, they'll go find a new job. So it's important that you got to like find the right stuff for them. So when Lenovo announced the ThinkBooks, it was exciting because it's a big commitment to have a whole new line of products aimed at this. And there's two models, and I'm excited to see that they've added a little bit more. But it's 14 to 15 inch powered ThinkBooks, and they're also upgrading the 13S and 14S with the new 10th gen Intel Core processors that has like Wi-Fi 6 and better battery life and all that kind of stuff. But they're nice. These are aluminum chassis. They still have a lot of the good security stuff, but these seem to be a hit. along with the Gen Z millennial folk? What do you think?
I think it was a smart move on Lenovo's part. There was this gap, I guess is the right word, in their product offerings for something, SMB appropriate, stylish but affordable, and they've done a really interesting job of filling that gap. And from my perspective, it feels like no small thing. Anytime they introduce a whole product category, a new kind of think whatever, think book, think server, it's kind of a significant thing for them. So this is clearly not a tiny market or a tiny opportunity from their perspective. They created a whole new brand essentially for this opportunity.
Yeah, and they want ThinkBook to be business front, but with a consumer flair that younger workers will like and want to use and want to be seen with, and that kind of stuff. So like they look nice, and the new models look good. So that's one new thing out of IFA. So if you're a Lenovo partner, check out the ThinkBooks and keep those in mind as you're selling, because you might have particular clients that might really enjoy offering those types of notebooks to their employees. Another fun one from Acer, the Concept D Pro family of notebooks with the Quadro GPU. So these are kind of a weird looking quasi workstation. It's almost like a hybrid between like a Surface and like what's the big one? The Surface Desk.
Oh yeah.
What do they call that
one? Yeah, I can't think of the name of it either, but I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's like a mobile one of those. So that looks kind of neat. Concept D9 Pro RTX Studio 17.3-inch notebook, so big. Quadro RTX 5000 GPU, 16 gigs of VRAM, 32 gigs of DDR4. And then they have a 15.6-inch version. But they look kind of cool. So these are obviously like workstation class, but they look almost like gaming machines. It's kind of neat.
And the other similarity with the Microsoft product that we're talking about there is it's very much oriented towards creators, as they call it. I mean, people who work with video and graphics and so on, and kind of need some of that workstation power. They need a big canvas, that 17-inch screen to work with. So this is not exclusively for creative professionals, and I'll bet all sorts of different people find different uses for it. But that's kind of the audience they had in mind for this.
Yeah, and then a little bit further down in their release, they have the Concept D5 Pro, which this is like I think there's going to be, I don't know if this was going to be black or white or silver only, but some nice clamshell pro grade notebooks, 4K UHD screens, Core i7, still Quadro graphics, so still with the professional content, producer, media producer, and art and all that kind of CAD kind of stuff in mind. And then there's a D3 Pro, which scales the power down a little bit. So a nice lineup of business grade stuff from Acer. I also noticed the price on the 9D Pro. Did you see how much that costs?
No, I didn't.
So the D9 Pro, that 17.3-inch with the heavy graphics and cool folding mobile screen, starts at $5,600.
Wow,
that's a pretty good amount for a mobile workstation. The 15.6-inch is $2,700. The 5D Pro looks really nice for $2,000, and the D3 for $1,000. So neat new stuff, and they have a monitor in there too. I didn't really read a whole lot about that. It didn't look anything like super amazing to me, but cool line of products from Acer for you to check out. Asus was in the news, and they also have some new content solutions for content creators, business professionals, and health and fitness folk. So their new Pro Art lineup. Also, so these are not Quadro; those are GeForce RTX GPU graphics. And then they have the Studio Book that has the Quadro. So it looks like they have two different levels there. They don't have any pictures on this one, though. Did you see pictures of this one?
No.
Well, what fun is a news release without pictures?
I know, especially when we're talking about hardware.
I know, right? So it sounds nice. Part StudioBook Pro X, screen pad, 4-sided Asus Nano Edge display. Ooh. NVIDIA Quadro RTX graphics, Intel Xeon 9th generation.
And actually, I just noticed if you scroll down and look to the right, there are some pictures there, but they're small.
Yes, they are small. Okay, so there's the StudioBook 1 Pro X. So these are more clamshell style. These aren't like a kind of a wacky style like the Acer ones, but they do look nice in that little micro thing. Now, is that a screen on the Pro X? Yeah, Screen Pad 2.0. Yeah, that's that like smartphone-like display. That's where the touchpad would be.
Oh, nice.
So it's not only going to be like a touchpad. I bet that's also the glass trackpad as well. But it looks like it also like display menus and other stuff on there. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot more of that, like a screen built into the bottom side of a clamshell to do different kind of things. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, so lots of new stuff from Asus. We'll move there. Razer's got the Blade Stealth 13, fitting a powerful NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650 and an ultra portable. Razer loves to do this kind of stuff. They love to make really, really thin notebooks and cram as much graphics into them as they can. And they tend to do it with aplomb. I really like the Blade laptops. Now these are more gaming focused. So you're not going to probably use this as a workstation, but I mean, you could certainly create content on these things. They have ample processing for lots of that kind of stuff. But if you want something that is like super, super thin with as much graphics as you can get into it, that's probably the one to do. Starts at $1,500. I'm sure that goes up depending on how you deck it out. And that is with a 13-inch display. So very ultra portable, big graphics. Exactly. See, Rich, this should be your next laptop.
Yes.
Because you're on the road a lot, and I know you have the ThinkPad. What do you have right now?
These days, just within the last month and a half, 2 months, I acquired an HP Spectre X360.
Ooh, those are nice. Those are nice. I'm not going to say that you didn't make a good choice. But these, if you like a lot of power at a 13-inch size, this is it. But I agree. I think the Spectre 360 might be a better choice for you because you don't really need the graphics because you're not doing a lot of gaming. But
whereas I do need as much battery life as I can get, and the battery life, that was something that they were really kind of highlighting with this device. And it has been, it's a little hard to predict what I'm going to get, but it has been pretty good.
That's good. Yeah. See, I'm more of the gaming notebook guy because I like battery life. I really do. But and actually, when I travel, I actually travel with a pretty small, thin Lenovo notebook these days. But I do love gaming notebooks, and Acer has one out too that they just released. This is the Predator Triton 300 and 500. Now, I think the 500 has been around for a while, but they added a new 300 hertz display that you can get for that. But the Predator Triton 300 gaming notebook looks really nice. Doesn't look ultra thick. And that's one big difference between gaming notebooks of, say, even 4 years ago and today, is that they have gotten a lot smaller than they used to be. I remember if you wanted to get like a gaming notebook, you were carrying around one of those like Alienware ones that were like, 15 pounds.
Right.
They're much, much lighter now. But this one looks also looks really nice. I'm trying to get the specs on here. 9th gen Intel Core i7. I'm sure they'll bump that eventually to the 10th gen once they get the more higher power chips out. GeForce GTX 1650, 16 gigs of DDR4, a terabyte of PCIe SSD and a RAID 0, 2 terabyte hard drive, killer Wi-Fi 6. So this is not 10th gen, so they're getting Wi-Fi 6 in the NIC through this is the killer line of NICs. 15.6 inch screen, looks nice, Rich. Might have to get me one of these if I can afford the. Well, let's see. The Triton 300 starts at $1,300. That's not all that unreasonable. Triton 500, $27.99. That's a pretty good amount of money for a gaming notebook. But anyway, folks, if you're always looking to offer the latest and the cutting edge into your partners and know what's out there, keep an eye out. The news coming out of IFA. Definitely, partners will want to keep an eye on the ThinkBook line, the ThinkPad. But sometimes you have lots of reasons to deploy other styles of notebooks, including gaming ones. So it's good to know what's out there in the workstation and gaming world. So I think that's about all we need to cover on IFA. What do you say?
That sounds right. But
all right.
Lots of interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'll probably have more to talk about next week because I get a chance to actually read some news from that particular show. But now, Rich, we're going to move on. It's party time. It's like a birthday party for the IAMCP. Because when I think IAMCP, I think birthday party. And would I be right in thinking?
You would if you're thinking specifically about the Southern California chapter.
Only them. I don't care about the rest of them.
So the IAMCP stands for International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, and this is indeed an international organization of Microsoft partners who get together to share business and best practices. The Southern California chapter of that organization, which is easily the biggest in the U.S. and I think second biggest globally. The only chapter that has more members is the one in Sweden, and that's a whole country versus Southern California in this case. So the Southern California chapter has very much been a success story for IAMCP. They are just about to celebrate their 10th anniversary. And they decided to throw a celebration party for that milestone. I first heard about this actually way back in February, and I was invited to come to the party. I had a conflict. I couldn't go. But at that time, basically, what they were looking to do was have sort of a party in the evening and maybe some talks by some Microsoft folks or other folks a little bit before that. But it was going to be sort of an after hour, as I understood it anyway. It was going to be sort of an after hours kind of celebration of 10 years of prosperity for the Southern California chapter. It has evolved into something much more bigger and kind of interesting since then. It's open to anybody. It's not just something for the members of that chapter. They are looking at attracting something like 500 partners now to this event. It's going to be a one-day event on October 24th in Irvine, California, and it has become a full-day event. They have all sorts of content, mostly being presented by Microsoft folks during the day. And then there are some keynotes from Microsoft executives, including, by the way, Gabriella Schuster, who runs the Microsoft Partner Program globally. She is flying down from Seattle to attend this. So are Brent Combest, who is the general manager in charge of the U.S. sales organization for Microsoft, Beth Kavanaugh, who is the national partner sales director, and a whole bunch of other Microsoft folks, technical folks, sales folks, partner folks, all making the trip to Irvine for this organization and this party because they believe in the value of peer-to-peer partnering and knowledge exchange. They're familiar with the IAMCP, which really has been kind of a pillar on the Microsoft channel landscape for a long time. And they and a lot of other folks, I think, are impressed by what the Southern California chapter in particular has done, which is one reason why folks apparently are going to be flying out from Ireland, and IAMCP members will be coming out from Japan and Ireland to attend this party and just see if they can kind of figure out what the secret sauce is that got this chapter up to just a hair under 200 members right now. And they're very engaged from what I hear from the folks there. They have the same kind of monthly meetings that all the chapters have, but there's all sorts of activity that happens between meetings as well. And so, we know the regular listeners of the podcast are familiar with Dave Seibert, who's been our guest and guest host on numerous occasions. He's a member of that organization. Ro Kolakowski, who you will be familiar with, Matt, is formerly a president of that chapter and president of IAMCP in the U.S., I believe, if I'm remembering right. So we know some of the folks who are going to be there, and it sounds like a really interesting. It's turned into a really interesting one-day conference as well as a celebration of this milestone, this anniversary. So anyone who's in the area or interested in checking it out, you can get all the details at www.iamcpparty.com. That's all one word, iamcpparty.com.
This is like the Woodstock of minor chapter celebratory events, right? It's like, why would anybody want to go to this other than the people in the chapter? And like, they're just coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
What, so why do you, okay, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but why do you think that is? Why is this one? There have been other chapters that have had 10th anniversaries because the IAMCP is like 25 years old. Why this chapter? And why is everybody going?
And this, obviously I kind of got into this. So a lot of the information in an article about this party that we're kind of looking at now and we'll link to from the show sheet, a lot of that information comes from a conversation I had at the Microsoft Partner Conference in July with Justin Slagle, who works for Microsoft now, but 10 years ago, when he founded this chapter of the IAMCP, he was a partner. I think for a training partner of Microsoft. And so, I mean, I asked him, well, what is the secret sauce? What is it you guys have done? And it's not any one thing. I think it's a number of smaller things and policies that they put into effect in terms of encouraging people and incentivizing people to recruit other partners. And in particular, I think he would probably point to the seriousness with which this particular chapter really looks to promote personal relationships among the members, and getting to know each other on a personal level, getting to know each other's families, spending time together with families. I think. Oh,
it's Southern California. I'm sure they're encouraging personal relationships.
Right. It's the touchy-feely chapter. I mean,
we shouldn't say. We got to be careful, man. We should.
Yeah, exactly. These days. I think they put an emphasis on community there that I think makes a difference for them. So I think it's a number of different policies and practices that they've figured out that, and it doesn't hurt that the Southern California market is a huge one. Just a lot of people there, a lot of technology providers there, so they have a bigger candidate pool to deal with.
Very cool. Well, if it's not a potluck, right? You don't have to bring a dish to pass.
That's correct. There are tickets. You do have to buy a ticket, and there are different levels. And if you buy a VIP ticket, you actually get a little FaceTime with Gabriella Schuster and some of the Microsoft execs. But you do have to buy your way in.
Money. All comes down to money. No, that's fine. It sounds interesting. We'll put the link in the show notes if you want to go and have a party. Celebrate it. Well, it's a conference now, right? So there's going to be educational
it's not just
sessions.
a party.
So it was a party. Now it's a conference party.
Right.
With the party, is the party before or after the conference? Can you just go for the party?
That's true.
Is there an open bar?
After work.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but these are the questions that everybody wants to know.
Yeah. Yeah. You can stay all day. You can show up for part of it. You can the content, the learning opportunities are in the morning and afternoon, and you can leave after that. You can skip that and show up for the keynotes and the celebration in the evening. And yeah, it's up to you.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, we will put a link there in the show notes for you to check that out if you want to learn a little bit more. But I think that's pretty much all the stories we had for today, which is good because we're kind of coming near the end. But I don't have a museum pick lined up this week, but I do have a tech pick, and it was inspired by our conversation just not all that long ago about you wanted a laptop with all-day battery life, and I was going to pick one of these new ones from IFA as a tech pick, but I decided, because some of these don't ship until November, so it's not, maybe there'll be a tech pick in November, but I'm like, you know what? A lot of people are in your boat. They want a good laptop. It does not have to be like a super duper rocket. It just needs to be able to perform well, but it needs to have all-day battery life, right? And you can easily go to like, some of those i3, Pentium machines that have giant batteries, but they're kind of slow, like they're not like the fastest good machines to do work on. But the battery lasts a long time. So I wanted to highlight a model from Lenovo, the ThinkPad X270, which is a very small. So you need a portable. It's a compact 12.5-inch laptop. It's got an HD screen. It's got a Core i5. So I believe it's a 2-core, but fast enough where I've never heard anybody complain doing office tasks or whatever about it. It's got fingerprint reader, a lot of the great stuff that you would expect in a ThinkPad notebook like Windows 10 Pro and so on and so forth. Nice design, very portable, but really, really long battery life. They're saying up to 27 hours, okay, which I don't think realistically you're going to hit that, but with some benchmark testing that they've done, they're saying like 13 hours of battery, of like real battery life, which is that's a great full day of battery life right there, doing work and getting work done. So I wanted to point that one out. The X2, and it's not expensive. It's I think these things start at like $429 a unit. As you add on some of the features, they can get a little bit more expensive, but we're talking $500 range. Very, very reasonable. Very good stuff.
I'm absolutely going to check this out. I'm just kind of looking at the specs, and because I am just brutal with laptop. I'm traveling all the time and on planes and working at conferences and so on. I'm starting to kind of reach a point where I'm feeling like I don't know that I want to go out and spend $1,500 to $1,800 every 18 months on a new laptop because I've beaten the crap out of the last one. So I'm can I find something that's like light, has really good battery life, but that is has enough performance that it's not going to be painful to use, and that is durable. So I keep looking around for products like that. This it's 2.9 pounds, which is probably half a pound more than the machine I'm on now, I'm guessing. Maybe.
Yeah, these are not going to be the lightweight because they're more of the low cost ones.
Yeah.
But there's some T-series laptops you might want to look at, or the, what is it, the X390, X395?
Yeah, I looked at. I was very interested in that one.
Those are pretty nice. And actually, you know what? Honestly, you might be a perfect candidate for one of the new ThinkBooks, like the 13S.
Yeah, I was thinking that as you were talking about it, I got to check those out too.
Yeah, very reasonable. I was going to look up the specs here for you, but I mean, these are beautiful notebooks. I got a chance to see them in person, and they're like really nice. But the specs here. 13-inch HD screen, up to 11 hours battery life. I wonder if the new ones are going to be even better with the new core, because these are with the 8th gen core chips. I'd wait till you get to the 10th gen and check those out. I'm trying to look for the weight. What's the weight? 2.95 pounds. So again, not as light as what you probably have, but
not backbreaking either. That might, something's got to give probably. And
it's usually in the weight, yeah, because that's one of the differences between those $1,500, $2,000 super thin ones versus this is again, these are ThinkPad, more business grade, a little bit more or ThinkBook, more durable, but certainly in the realm of what you'd probably want, and also very reasonably priced.
Right.
I think these started like $630, give or take.
Yeah,
depending on which one. So something to think about. But anyway, that's my my tech pick, the ThinkPad X270. All right, and that's going to wrap up ChannelPro Weekly episode 116. If you would like to subscribe to ChannelPro Weekly, there's a few ways to do it. Hit our any show notes page. You'll see links there to iTunes, Google Play Podcasts, or Stitcher, pretty much anywhere where podcasts are aggregated. You'll be able to find us, and that's for the audio version. So go subscribe. As we do episodes, poof, they'll just magically come down to your phone, tablet, device, whatever you subscribe on, and you can listen wherever you're at. If you like the video version, right now we're not streaming live at the moment, but we are putting up our shows after the fact We're putting them up right now on YouTube. We'll probably expand that out a little bit more in the future, but YouTube is fine for now. So go to our video channel, subscribe. There's a subscribe button on YouTube. You have to hit that. That doesn't do anything anymore. There's like a bell that you have to hit, and then you can get notified of like new shows and stuff that we do. So there's the subscribe bell, the two-step process on YouTube. If you want to follow us on the social networks, we are ChannelPro Network on Facebook. We are at ChannelPro SMB on Twitter. Rich, what are you on the Twitters?
At Rich Free.
And I'm at Matt Whitlock on Twitter. If you want to email us, email is a great way to get a hold of us. podcast@channelpronetwork.com is our email address. We want to hear from you, folks. Send us your questions. Send us your suggestions, your feedback, your thoughts, good recipes for minestrone soup. Whatever it is, we want to hear it. And if you have a new word of the day, not consortium, let us know. We'll put it into a future show. And we'll make Rich scream like a crazy person whenever we say it. So anyway, I think that wraps it up, right, Rich?
I think so.
All right, that's all. That's it for now. Thank you all, and we will see you all next week.